to 11 servings of bread, cereal, or rice. 3 to 5 of vegetables and 4 of fruits is best. Their antioxidants and fiber help you to digest.
Welcome to one of the past HSC exam question videos. In this question, we're going to cover this exam question, which comes from the importance of cleanliness chapter. In a second, I'll read the actual question. Once I've read the question, you have about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once you pause the video, attempt the question, and then when ready, press play, and I'll go over the actual answer itself. The question says, a student working in a restaurant kitchen is required to wear disposable gloves and a hat when we're preparing food. A. Explain how these practices assist in the control of disease, and that's with 2 marks. And B. Identify another hygiene practice that reduces the risk of infection, and that's worth 1 mark. So pause the video and attempt the question, and then when ready, press play, and I'll go over the actual answer itself. Welcome back. Alright, so this question is an A and a B part. I'll go over the A part first. It says explain. So what you should do is name. We've already named them, but name them again. So talk about disposable gloves and hat, and obviously then explain how that helps us to prevent disease. And do that both for the gloves and for the hat. Make sure to mention both of them, not just one. That's your 2 marks. So what I've wrote is the hair and the hands are contaminated with potential pathogenic bacteria that can cause disease. So what I've mentioned first is that there's actually bacteria on hair and hand, and it's important because now we can say, well, we want to make sure that those bacteria don't end up in the food. So first you say that it's actually bacteria on our hair and hands. And then what I wrote is wearing sterile gloves prevents the bacteria from ending up on food. So the word sterile is also important. It means there's no actual bacteria on our gloves. Wearing sterile gloves prevents bacteria from ending up on the food, which would be then later consumed by another individual. So we've said that bacteria can be transferred from us to the food, and that food can then be consumed by another individual, which will obviously spread the disease. And then I also wrote, wearing a hat or putting one's hair in a bun prevents hair to fall into food, and thereby reduce the risk of spreading pathogenic bacteria that might be present in the hair. And so again, we mentioned that there are pathogens on our hair and hand, and by wearing gloves and putting a hat on, we can make sure that these bacteria don't end up in the food, which would then be consumed by another person later. I see 2 marks here, so 2 out of 2. And the last one was identify one hygienic practice that reduces the risk of infection. And identify, that just means name. So all you really have to do is name. Just name one. I've actually done a bit more of name than explain, but you wouldn't have had to do that. You just would have had to name it. So if you say brushing teeth, that's your mark. But what I wrote is brushing teeth on a daily basis kills plaque-causing bacteria, which prevents tooth decay. This was just an extra. Just mentioning brushing teeth, that gets you your mark, 1 mark. And I explained it as well. So the first part was the naming, and then this part was the explaining. But because the question didn't ask you to do that, you wouldn't have had to do that. So overall, that's 3 marks out of 3 for that kind of response. And where does that question come from? It comes from this dot point. It says, explain why cleanliness in food, water, and personal hygiene practices assist in the control of disease. Right, so here we were talking about food. So a student working in a restaurant kitchen is required to wear disposable gloves when preparing food. So we had the food part here. And the B part was identify one other hygienic practice. That was the personal hygiene part of that dot point. But yeah, I hope that was useful.
Thank you for watching.